Hello, so this is from my vocational aspects of disability class, critical trends in job placement. Introduction. For people with disabilities, as for anyone else, being able to get and retain work is not just about the money. It is a key part of health and well-being. Yet, the journey to getting and retaining work for many people with disabilities has been a difficult one. Despite over 2 decades of protections of the American Disabilities Act, employment, wage, and poverty statistics indicate that people with disabilities continue to struggle in their employment lives. Disability employment in Maine. In 2011, the employment rate for people with disability was 33.3. In the same year, the employment rate for people with cognitive disabilities in Maine was 21.3. Maine was ranked number 43 in the country for a gap in employment between people with disabilities and people without disabilities. Wyoming, a much more rural state than Maine, was ranked number 1, having the lowest employment gap in the nation. Critical trends in job development. 1. Hiring people with disabilities is a good investment for employers. 2. More people with disabilities have college degrees. 3. Before COVID-19. The job market recovered and more jobs were available. 4. People are paying attention to emerging and declining job sectors. 5. Work incentives and Social Security reform are available to encourage people to return to work on Social Security benefits. 6. Employers are relying on contingent workforce that offers an alternative entry point into employment. 7. The ADA Amendment Act has focused attention on discrimination against people with disabilities in the workplace. 8. The President, quote-unquote Obama, because this is when Obama did it, issues an executive order for the federal government to become a model employer for people with disabilities. And this is encouraging hiring of the private sector. 9. More companies are integrating disability into their diversity plans. 10. The baby boomers are acquiring disabilities on the job, giving employers valuable experience in addressing disability in the workplace. So trend number 1, people with disabilities in employment. It is getting easier to make the case. So substantial research shows that employing people with disabilities is a good return on investment for employers. People with disabilities perform as well as others in the workplace. The cost of the reasonable accommodations is on the whole significantly less than what many employers fear. Trend number 2, educational attainment. Good news. The generation of people with disabilities now entering the labor market has had legal protections throughout their educational lives. In 2010, 82% of people with disabilities completed high school compared to 61% in 2004. More people with disabilities are enrolled at college. Over 1/3 of college reported working with vocal rehab agencies on disability and education issues. Trend number 3, the recession and the recovery. Despite gains in educational attainment, data from the current population survey show that job losses for people with disabilities were far greater than for any other groups. Because of this, the proportion of workers with disabilities in the U.S. workforce declined by 9% between 2008 and 2010. Yet there are indications that the labor market is rebounding. Trend number 4, emerging and declining job sectors. Every 2 years, the Bureau of Labor Statistics issues the Employment Outlook Handbook. The 2010 to 2020 BLS Industry and Employment Outlook Projections report, upon which the handbook is based, shows that the fastest growing job sectors are in healthcare, social assistance, and professional business services. Declining job sectors include manufacturing, postal service, food preparation, and textile work. Concentration through growing. Construction, though growing, is not expected to be fully regain the jobs lost during the recession. So, trend number 5, understanding Social Security benefits. Recent changes in the SSDI system under the Ticket to Work program Work Incentives Improvement Act of 1999 and the Benefits Offset National Demonstration have aimed to ease the risk of returning to work for SSDI beneficiaries. Trend number 6, the rise of the contingent workforce. Known as temporary, freelance, seasonal, or contract workers, the number of people working in the contingent workforce have grown over the past 2 decades. It is likely that between 10% and 50% of workers are in this range. On one hand, employers may be more willing to undertake what they believe to be a risky hire when the job is a temporary arrangement. On the other hand, jobs in this workforce are unstable, often do not have benefits such as medical insurance, may not have the same opportunities for training and advancement, and often do not have the same legal protections as traditional jobs. Trend number 7, the ADA Amendments Act. Because of the Supreme Court decision taken over after 1990, the definition of disability became so restricted that few could successfully bring charges. Instead of looking at the alleged discrimination event itself, courts were focused only on whether the individual had a qualifying disability under the ADA. The key purpose of the ADA Amendments Act was to restore the ADA to reflect the original intent of Congress in 1990, when the original ADA was passed. The ADA specifies that the definition of disability would now be based on the individual's condition in their unmitigated state. In other words, without the use of mitigation measures such as treatment, medicines, or assistive devices. The regard as provision is based on the establishing that workplace discrimination occurred based on the employer's perception of the disability. Trend number 8, federal disability employment incentives. The architectural/transportation tax deduction program can be used by any businesses to remove existing barriers in buildings or transportation vehicles. The disabled tax credit can be used by small businesses to buy equipment, aids, or devices and remove architectural barriers. The work opportunity tax credit gives employers a tax credit for hiring workers from certain targeted low-income groups, including individuals with disabilities referred by vocational rehabilitation programs. Other incentives have to do with hiring and contracting within the U.S. federal government. Trend number 9, increasing awareness of disability, diversity, and inclusion. Since the 1970s, businesses have been implementing efforts to increase diversity in the workplace and in customer service. Yet these diversity plans have all too often not included America's largest diversity population, people with disabilities. An emerging awareness among employers is the need to meaningfully include disability in diversity and inclusive efforts. As an RP, you are uniquely positioned to be viewed as an expert resource for businesses as they reinvigorate their diversity efforts. Trend number 10, the aging of our workforce. In 2008, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that between 1977 and 2007, the employment rate of workers over age 65 increased by over 100%. Given this trend, employers will have intensified ongoing needs around ensuring that older workers can continue to contribute their skills, talents, and experience as they age into a disability. The end. So that's the end. Thanks for listening.